Shots fired. I got one subject down. I've been hit in my left shoulder. 77 Wexford Lane.
Well, at around 5:30 p.m., we were called out here to Wexford Lane, the site of an apparent shooting.
Our deputy arrived on scene to serve a search warrant.
Mike was never on this warrant.
Michael Hanson, the suspect, pulled a firearm.
Mike had his hand in his pocket. Detective tried to jump the fence.
He went without backup.
The other deputies returning fire shot and killed the armed suspect.
There's actually a lot of things the investigation didn't look into.
Step off the property.
Step off.
Step off the property. What do you got there? Get your head.
Fucking asshole.
You show me it's a good shoot, I get it. If not a good shoot, why does it take 3 months for you to clear up this investigation?
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Cascade Effect, episode 1 of season 1, 89 seconds. We're going to be showing the episode here in just a minute. Just wanted to intro it for you. We're going to be doing a Q&A with myself and Tony Rosales and Kevin Leatherbarrow directly after the show. Should last about 30 minutes or so. We're going to try to do these for every episode we release, and just so we can be in touch with whoever wants to ask questions, whoever has thoughts. We would just like to hear from the community, hear from the people who are watching. So really appreciate y'all tuning into this. Yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, hit us up in the comments after. We will try to read as many as we can, and kind of talk about how the process is going and how it's gone so far. And yeah, that'll pretty much do it, y'all. So yeah, this will last about 30 minutes, and then we'll do the live Q&A. And so yeah, we'll see you then. February 23rd, 2024. Detective Jacob Try of the Cascade County Sheriff's Office had an interaction with civilian Michael Hanson. It lasted 89 seconds. By the end of that minute and a half, Michael was fatally shot and Detective Try was wounded. The following is the only known recording of the incident from beginning to end, with no edits or enhancements.
How goes it, Mike? We got a search warrant for the property. My partner's got the paper copy, but...
What do you need a search warrant for?
Because we got a search warrant. You'll read it when you get it here.
Huh?
You'll see it when you get here.
All right.
But we got a search warrant, so...
Why do you guys go chase some real criminals?
What do you mean? I do chase real criminals.
Oh, shit. Chasing after Pam. She hasn't done a damn thing.
What's she doing out here?
Bringing me food and water for the animals.
Okay. What's her conditions say?
Huh?
What does her bail conditions say?
I don't know.
She's not supposed to be around animals or possess anything animals.
Well, you get your fucking warrant.
I already got a warrant. Mike, come back here. You need to leave the property.
I don't have a way out of here. I don't have a
Well, you need to stay off the property, so step off. Or you can go to jail for obstruction, I'm telling you now. Step off the property. Who else is here?
Nobody.
Okay, step off the property.
Fuck that. Let me see your...
I'll show you the warrant, but you're going to step off the property.
No, I ain't
Yes,
stepping
you
off
are.
nothing until I get a warrant.
You're going to step off this property, I'm telling you now.
When I see a warrant.
Okay, come here. Step off the property.
I'm not stepping off the property.
Step off the property.
All right.
What do you got there? Get your head.
Fucking asshole.
I've got some secrets that I gotta keep. Yeah, there's emotion swirling underneath. Does it seem daylight? Or feel the same? I've got a question burning through my mind. The only one believing
Welcome to Cascade County, Montana, the 5th most populated county in the state at 85,000 people, and home to the 3rd most populated city in the state, Great Falls, at 60,000. The county is located just on the eastern edge of the Rocky Mountains and features the stunning Missouri River winding its way through from corner to corner. Montana is known for many things: diverse wildlife, stunning landscapes, weathered cowboys, Yellowstone National Park, and the dream home of Sam Neill's character in The Hunt for Red October.
I would like to have seen Montana.
It's one of the favorite holiday destinations for folks around the country and has grown in population substantially in the past 5 years. Though with all it has to offer, and there is plenty, not everything is as perfect as it may look. According to statistics compiled by Campaign Zero, per capita, civilian casualties at the hands of Montana law enforcement has been in the top 10 states for 10 out of the last 12 years. It also has an unusually large number of exonerations per capita, meaning that innocent people are thrown in prison only to be released years or even decades later when their case is retried or new evidence is presented. The Montana Innocence Project has played a major role in freeing 8 of these individuals who have lost a grand total of 110 years of their lives in prison and on parole. This very clearly damages these victims in an irreversible way, as well as costing the taxpayer over $3.6 million for those incarcerations. The Montana Innocence Project has 3 more current cases, costing the victims a combined 45 years of their lives. The National Registry of Exonerations records data back to 1989. Their data indicates the average lost time for innocent civilians put in prison in Montana is 9 years, many of whom were wrongfully convicted of murder, sexual assault, and child abuse. Bad interactions with law enforcement seem to have increased in the past 5 years, and the case we'll be focusing on this season happened this year, in 2024, between a man named Michael Hanson and a Cascade County Sheriff's Deputy, Sergeant Jacob Try. 2 groups have taken the reins to shed more light on this case. The first is the Montana Citizens Council and Forum on Judicial Accountability, with whom we will be speaking in a future episode. The second group is the Cascade County Libertarian Party. What's your name? What do you do?
My name is Kevin Leatherbarrow. I run a small business for educating children in Great Falls.
You seem to be the driving force behind this whole thing.
Yes.
Yes. How did that happen? Like, why is this particular incident latched onto you so much?
Well, this kind of goes back. It probably goes back being a running for office, right? So when you run for office, you might not win, but you do get. I don't even know if we call them constituents or not, but you get people who vote for you, right? And if the other constituents or the other candidates aren't doing anything, they seem to reach out to those who can probably help them. So I've had a couple of cases come across my board and brought to us, and desperation, asking, hey, is there something you could do or talk to somebody? Because, I mean, we have our inner circles. There's circles in politics. Mm-hmm. And I want to make a note of that. This is not about politics. This is just how we got to this point. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody come up to me and say, will you look at this case from the sheriff's department? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll look at it. And so I looked at it, and it was riddled with all kinds of just Fourth Amendment violations and just shady stuff from the sheriff's department and things of that nature. So we started looking into it more.
Pause real quick. Your microphone on a little bit. Let's move it to middle. Yeah, that one.
Better?
Sweet. Yeah.
Does that work?
Yep.
So we started looking at these cases, and it was all of these violations that we were seeing with the Fourth Amendment and other things that they were doing. So those were the other cases. So the day that this had happened, the shooting had happened, I just had whimsily put a post out there. I said, well, I bet you he didn't have a warrant. I bet you he when it went without backup, and I knew nothing about this case at all. I knew nothing about the shooting that day. It was like 2 days after the shooting or something like that. Well, I got a lot of flack. I got flack from the mayor. I got flack from the sheriff's department, from Jesse.
Jesse Slaughter is the sheriff of Cascade County. More about him and his previous interactions with the Hanson family will be addressed in a future episode.
And so I was like, okay. You know, they asked me, Jesse asked me, well, what do I know about the case? And I said, I don't know absolutely anything. And he says, well, why would you post twice on Facebook? You know, we don't want to get the community riled up. And I can understand that. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll back off until we see what the investigation has to say. So we waited and we waited and we waited. And then finally the inquiry came. And once that had happened, we started looking into where this was going, and we just could not believe the egregiousness of this case. And I was right. I was dead on, right? So, and that's unfortunate because I don't want to be dead on. I didn't want any of this to turn out the way it was. You don't want to wish it was a good shoot, because that's not the correct language. You wish that, the things that have happened were lawful. You wish that everything was followed and protocol was put into places for a reason, and that was followed as well, and you hope that that would be the case. Well, we found out it wasn't. So I started digging, and I started digging more, and I started digging more, and before I knew it, we were finding violations in this case that were just awful.
Egregious is the perfect word to describe the events of February 23rd. Egregious, above the common, beyond what is usual, or a more of the times definition, would be a bad or condemnatory sense, extreme. You see, everything that occurred that day can be traced back to the purchase of cat food and kitty litter.
I'm Tony Rosales. I do quite a number of things. My day job, I'm a healthcare consultant. I work remotely. That allowed me to reestablish my residency here. So I've gotten involved in some other ways as well. I coach speech and debate with our high school students here. And I also chair our Cascade County Libertarian Party, which I've been doing since we started it about a year and a half ago. And similar to Kevin, been running for offices as part of that as well.
Can you tell me what you know happened, or what you have been told happened on February 23rd of 2024?
Sure. So this all starts with, it actually goes back further than 2024. So the original incident involved Pam Polajewski, who I think it was 2020, and another time as well, there was an animal cruelty incident. Several hundreds of animals had to be taken off the property. Some were in very poor condition. There's a whole discussion on that, and there was a trial related to that as well. While that context is important, that trial or that specific case isn't really the issue to what happened on February 23rd, other than providing the background and context to it. So an off-duty officer saw Pam purchasing cat food or some sort of animal supply, so cat food, cat litter from a local Walmart. Under her current conditions at that point, she wasn't allowed to be in possession of animals. So, that probably would have sparked some curiosity from the law enforcement officer if he knew of the case, which a lot of the law enforcement here did, because they were involved in it in 2020. So he was off duty, and then he ended up calling a detective who was on duty, Detective Jacob Try. And so Try ended up doing the investigation on the 23rd. He first went to Walmart to confirm what was bought there, or what he was told by the off-duty officer. So he got some images from that, and then he had another deputy go and run surveillance over at her property, which is just outside of Cascade County, or just outside of Great Falls, still in Cascade County. So as the other deputy is running surveillance, and surveillance is sort of a weird term to be using here, because if you go out to the property, there really is no one else should be there other than whoever lives on that property. It's a dirt road. that there's no other access to it other than that dirt road. So if there isn't a law enforcement there, it's pretty clear that someone is there. If they're an unmarked car, you know it's someone there. If it's an actual marked car, you know it's law enforcement. So Pam was on the property, and she did end up spotting that individual, and she ended up leaving in her truck. She drove to a local grocery store, Smith's Groceries, where Detective Try eventually would meet with the deputy as well. They ended up losing Pam, but they found her vehicle. Throughout that whole surveillance process, Detective Try was submitting his warrant for investigation of the property. And then while they were at Smith's, they actually got a call from the judge to get sworn in, and then they had a search warrant to be able to go search it. Eventually they made eventually Detective Try went to the property, and he sent the other deputy to get an evidence tech from the office. So it's just Detective Try on that county road. Before he gets to the property, he's trying to, again, run surveillance while he's waiting for his backup. But he stops midway to put on his vest, and then as he approaches the rest of the residents, the Mike Hanson, who lives on the property, spotted him, asked what he's doing there. There was an exchange of Detective Try letting him know he has a warrant for the property to chat or to look at things based off of what they had saw from Pam and what she was purchasing at Walmart. Mike was wanted to see the warrant, and before he would step off the property, he wanted to see the warrant. Detective Try didn't show him the warrant based off of what we know from the evidence. And eventually, because Try wanted him to step off the property so there wasn't any obstruction of evidence, Detective Try jumped the fence. In that moment, he saw that Mike had his hand in his pocket, and at that point there was an exchange of shots between Detective Try and Mike Hanson. There's a lot more complexities to that, but I'm sure we'll be getting into more of those discussions. But ultimately, from February 23rd, it started with an off-duty officer seeing Pam buying cat food, and it ended with Detective Try on a property with just himself and Mike Hanson, and the result was Mike Hanson was shot twice, once in the neck and then another in the chest, and Jacob Try was shot once in the arm. Mike Hanson ended up dying later on from his gunshot wounds.
Even though there's an audio recording of the incident, and there were only 2 people directly involved, this case, as well as the decade of events leading up to this case, are very complex. But before we tackle the complexities, we're going to start with the actual incident itself. In September of 2024, we went with Kevin Leatherbarrow to the scene of the crime. Both of us wanted to get a sense of how it could have played out and why Mike was dead after only 89 seconds. The official story put forth by law enforcement was that Sergeant Try went out to Wexford Lane to run surveillance, something which we've already pointed out is basically impossible without being noticed. When Mike approached the gate to see who it was, Try got out of his vehicle and made contact. Keep in mind that Sergeant Try is in an unmarked vehicle and in plain clothes, with the addition of his bulletproof vest. They then have their interaction, the audio that you heard at the beginning of the episode. Mike repeatedly asks to see the warrant while Sergeant Try refuses to show him unless he steps off the property. Mike begins to walk away, Try jumps the fence, and asks Mike, "What do you got there?" Sergeant Try then fires his weapon. The magazine malfunctions after the shot goes off, and he attempts to clear his gun as Mike says, "Fucking asshole," and pulls out a snub-nosed revolver from his pocket and begins firing at Try, hitting him in the shoulder. Try clears his malfunction and fires back, ultimately hitting Mike, who continues to fire his weapon as he falls to the ground. Sergeant Try then retreats to his car and calls for help. Let me reiterate here that this is the official story. Much of it is correct. One crucial detail is an outright lie. Sergeant Try fires a Glock 9mm from very close to the recorder. Mike Hanson fires a .38 revolver from about 8 yards away. They have distinctive audio signatures, as you can see. What we are able to prove is that Sergeant Try fired his first shot, took 2.16 seconds to clear his magazine, and then fired his second shot before Mike was able to get a single shot off. Mike subsequently fired, followed by 2 more shots from Try, followed by Mike emptying his revolver as he assumedly falls to the ground. This sequence of events strongly suggests that Mike didn't have his gun out until after he was shot at the first time, leading one to question why Sergeant Try pulled his weapon first.
All right, so here's the position of everything. Okay, so we would have had, the camper would have been right here. Okay, and then Try's vehicle is right where you guys are. So right about back here to here. There's the dip in the road that he was speaking of. So if he wanted to do surveillance, that's the position that he would want to be in.
Yeah, totally, like down below that.
Yeah. From the pictures of this, you would think that this trailer sits back a lot further than it is. It's right on top of the gate.
Yeah, totally, it's right there.
Who wouldn't see a car roll up?
Right, and he was living in the trailer, or in
We're
the camper.
We're unsure if he was living in the camper or the trailer. But that's irrelevant. Either way, you're going to see a car from this distance from here coming in.
Yeah.
No matter if they think he was warned or not.
Yep.
So he puts his vest on down below, he says, the dip. And then he rolls up here. He breaks surveillance as soon as he rolls up over the top of that hill.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
There's no...
Yeah, you can't beat.
You can't beat that. And then he comes up through here. The camper is right on top of the gate. And it should be right here. In this area. And then...
Yep.
And then, well, he's rolling on down from the top, so this is probably how Mike came down. That's a 9mm. That's a 9mm. Why didn't they collect all the evidence? Do you know anybody out here that shoots a 9mm? Can you get a picture of that? See the caliber on the bottom and what type it is? There we go. I got it. I can't stand still. 9mm Luger. Silver casings. I mean, we're not messing with evidence because they said that they got all of it. But if there's a 9mm round up here, and they also have in their inquiry that they did not find all of the rounds, I do believe, I'm going to have to re-look at that, but I think that they said that they didn't find all of them.
Yeah, how could they not? They got the flags right there.
Exactly. There was snow on the ground, correct? But, I mean, that's not going to... That wouldn't stop a metal detector if they would have brought a metal detector out here or something. Why wouldn't you bring a metal detector out here?
Right, makes sense if you would.
Right, and this was here, right? So it's right where I'm exactly where he is right now.
Where Try was.
Right where Try was. Yep. So if I get over the fence, so my ejection port would be like this, right?
Totally.
So my ejection, it goes all right. All rounds should land right where that round is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And we know he didn't bring any of his radios. He didn't bring a radio out here. He brought his old vest. He didn't bring any non-lethals out here with him. He brought no taser, none of his stuff, which he admits that's negligence. Just for his safety alone, let alone the safety of anybody else. I mean, law enforcement would probably argue that a taser is something that helps them de-escalate the situation in a non-lethal manner.
Totally.
Right?
Right.
So there is no question in my mind, this is totally negligent homicide. He was not supposed to be here serving a warrant. He was only supposed to be doing surveillance, and he broke all protocol.
As demonstrated, The lie about the gunshots was not the only misconduct by Sergeant Try and the Sheriff's Office. Here's a list of the code, procedural, and rights violations that we believe Try committed on that day. He was there for surveillance only, not to present a warrant. Once spotted by Mike, he went in without backup. He was in plain clothes and an unmarked vehicle and failed to identify himself as police. As such, he unlawfully recorded a second party without notifying them. He arrived at the property with no non-lethal weapons. He made no attempt at de-escalating the situation, even just by walking away and calling for backup. He refused to present the warrant to Mike, and as such, when he finally leapt the gate, he was trespassing on private property. He used lethal force without warning, violating the Fourth Amendment. The use of force must be justified, and there is no indication, other than Try's testimony, that firing his weapon was justified. The state performed its own investigation into the event. Not only did it conclude with no disciplinary action, they awarded Sergeant Try the Law Enforcement Purple Heart. Because of the glaring mistakes and misconduct in the inquest, Kevin, and subsequently Tony, decided to begin their own investigation, which has led us here today.
There's actually a lot of things the investigation didn't look into, including focusing more on Mike as opposed to, and even characterizing Mike as opposed to looking at anything about Detective Try or making sure, I mean, even his bullets were accounted for.
Right.
We still have no clue, how many bullets were in that magazine that he was firing in.
Yep.
But we know very well the different analysis of the firearm that Mike was using. So, all of the public information that was available at the inquest, we've been digging into it, the recordings of the shooting, we've been digging in and just trying to understand what happened in those, I don't know, like, it wasn't even that long of a
40
time
seconds.
frame. Yeah.
It went sideways.
Yeah, very, very quickly. And from there, we've been trying to identify from the very beginning of seeing Pam in Walmart, what were the different incidences that the sheriff's office could have taken a step back and thought, is this the appropriate action for us to be taking in this moment? And it was multiple failures, even before Detective Try got to the residence, that they could have avoided a community member being shot.
We have to start thinking that these are just citizens of Cascade County. These are your everyday citizens that walk down the street. Crazy or whichever these markers that they put on them is not illegal. It's not something that we can judge on, because you want to define what crazy is. I would love to hear that definition of what that is. I really would. And so these are just citizens. He's a citizen. He should be treated like a citizen, and he was not. He's immediately treated like he was garbage. You can hear it on the video. Detective was condescending. He was threatening right off the bat. He was provoking. He refused to show him the warrant when he asked multiple times nicely. You can hear how nice he actually asked him. These are our citizens. If we treat our citizens like this, we've lost who we are.
Bias is innate in humans. How one person experiences an event can differ greatly from how someone else experiences the exact same event. There is no such thing as being unbiased when it comes to news, documentaries, podcasts, or even investigations. We end the episode with this statement simply to remind you, the audience, that we have our own opinion on what happened during the incident upon which this season focuses. We will not try to hide it, nor will we try to deceive you. However, we believe that up to this point, the public has only been presented with one side of the story, the side deemed appropriate and accurate by law enforcement. We believe that those in power should be able to stand up to even the most severe scrutiny, especially in matters of life and death. So we will present every bit of information that we can in order to inform you and allow you to form your own opinion on what happened to Mike Hanson. So stay tuned, Set your reminders, turn on alerts, subscribe to the channel. We're airing this show on nearly every audio and video platform. New episodes will come out every 2 to 3 weeks as we continue our investigation. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. We'll see you next time on the Cascade Effect. The Cascade Effect is brought to you by PeacefulSea Network. Theme song by Jay Denton and Hannah Parrott. Special thanks to Kevin Leatherbarrow, Tony Rosales, Tim Hanson, Arliss Hanson, Bart Crabtree, the Cascade County Libertarian Party, and the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. All right, y'all. That was episode 1, titled 89 Seconds. And without further ado, we're going to bring on Kevin Leatherbarrow and Tony Rosales. What is up, y'all?
Hey, how you doing? Can you
Good.
hear
How
us
are y'all doing?
Well, we're doing okay.
Good.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Heck yeah. Yeah, first off, thank y'all for, y'all were the ones who roped me into this whole thing. So thank y'all for doing that.
Well, you just you showed up at the right time.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy day. Yeah, for those who don't know, I am moving to Montana at the moment, and I showed up to a libertarian meeting and just happened to hear this story, and Mike's sons happened to be at the meeting. And yeah, it just, my wife and I talked it over, and we just thought we should make this show. So, Kevin,
Yep.
was that, I'm assuming that was your second time watching the episode. Did anything pop out at you?
That was like my 100th. Are you kidding me? That was totally awesome. But yes, no, I mean, because you missed something the first time around. So yes, it was great.
Yeah. What stood out this time? Was it anything specific that stood out to you this time around?
You know, it all kind of comes kind of emotional when you see it. You know, you kind of go, when we were out there, I guess, and we actually put boots on the ground. Rosa really wasn't paying attention that I kind of stepped in a hole. But no, when I got out there and actually had, you forget where, you know, you can get so tunnel visioned on something like this. And when you walked into this case, we were already 3, 4, 5 months into it, and pretty intense, where we're kind of standing. So I think, again, when I actually see the property again, and I'm looking at it, and I just can't believe it.
Yeah, man, it's wild. For those still watching, there's definitely a few of y'all out there. We're pretty much just going to focus on this particular episode. We're not going to talk about most of the things, or some of the things that we know now or that will be revealed in the upcoming episodes. And yeah, one of the things that struck me was the fact that they tried to run surveillance on the property. And we talked about it in the episode, but once you're out there, the photos don't really do it justice in the report that they give. Like it's very apparent that if you see a car coming down that road, they don't belong there unless you know them, unless they have an invitation. And so some of the comments we've been getting, which have been making my blood boil, have one of them said that he had no business confronting a cop on a county road. And yeah, I mean, just in the video, if you just watch the video, it's very clear that it is about a quarter mile of nothing over the hill. And
that's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. When you see, it doesn't matter if it's like county, it doesn't matter if it's county road. If a car stops in front of your house on the street, is that any different? And then you wonder, gee, he's been there for about, I don't know, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to call the police or go out and see, hey, what's going on? I mean, this is wide open territory. I mean, he rolled right up to his gate. He wanted to do surveillance. He should have brought the proper gear, like, I don't know, like a spotting scope or maybe some binoculars or actually detective stuff that's supposed to be in their backpacks or whatever.
Yeah.
So no, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's what I got about to say about that. Because, like you said, the pictures, like you said, I mean, it's right there. I mean, he rolled. The pictures don't do it any justice at all. You have to be on the ground, and he was extremely close.
Yeah, that really changed the case for me was being there on site and kind of seeing how it could have all gone down. We have our first question of the evening. DB says, thank you to all of you for investigating this. Does anyone know if Mike was recording with his phone? If so, where is that evidence? Tony, do you know?
That's a good question. He did have his phone out, from what we know. We're suspecting he was recording during that time, but we don't know that for sure. We're trying to get all of that sort of evidence from the county right now to be able to understand that. But based off of all the reporting, it doesn't seem like even the county knows if he was recording or not, despite them having access to his phone and going through it for various reasons.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Because during even the inquiry, they didn't bring that up. I mean, you'd think that'd be significant evidence for Mike's part.
You think it would? Yeah, because we do know his phone was on him, and there's speculation as to whether or not that's what he had in his hand, and not a pistol at the moment when Tri pulled his weapon. One of the major comments we've been getting is on the side of the police is that Hanson didn't follow orders. Hanson didn't step off the property. Tony, can you explain why that wasn't necessary? And
I think there's a lot of confusion in terms of what's why the detective was there in the first place, as well as what sort of orders he could give at that time. It was Mike's residence, so he had the legal right to be there. He didn't need to be forced off without any either probable cause or a search warrant that was exhibited to him, and really that's the issue at heart here. There was no probable cause for Tri to arrest him based off of anything that was happening, and then we can prove that through the recordings. And then when we look at the search warrant, the county will continue to say that they had the search warrant signed and that it was on the way, or at least a paper copy was on the way. And so Tri was supposedly had a digital copy on his phone, but he never actually showed it to Mike. And as the resident of the property, for any order to be given to him to step off the property, he needed to exhibit that warrant in the first place. So, he went out there with the intention of surveillance. It ended up with him trying to attempt to serve a warrant without actually showcasing the warrant. And so Mike didn't have to follow those orders and he requested it fairly calmly when you listen to that video, let me see the warrant and I will step off. But at no point was that warrant shown to him.
Yeah. And something that did strike me is at the end of the episode, Kevin does mention that he asked to see the warrant very kindly, and I think some people definitely noticed that. Yeah, he may have done it at first, but he was not kind towards the end. But I think everybody has had some type of interaction, whether it be law enforcement or with another human, where they keep saying the same thing over and over again. You keep giving them the same answer and they don't pivot. And so at some point it's going to make you a little upset. And you're,
Well, and even to that end, I mean, Mike's a civilian. There is no expectation on him to be anything other than a civilian. Detective Try is not. He was a county official at that point, and his duty was to de-escalate that situation, and he chose not to. I mean, he didn't even attempt to de-escalate. His initial conversations or words as part of that conversation started to escalate it. Mike wanted to know exactly why Try was there. Try didn't give him a straightforward answer. Just gave him, just iffy statements. Oh, we have a search warrant. You'll see it when we get here. But he never tried having a conversation with Mike, which, I mean, if he had a conversation with Mike, I'm certain this whole thing would have ended far differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the episode title suggests, the whole thing lasted 89 seconds. Like, it goes from a simple inquiry of how you doing, Mike, to like a guy shot on the ground. That's way too fast. It should never have escalated that far. Police are supposed to de-escalate the situation. We're going to get into like Try's testimony and some other things that imply negligence on his part and not doing what he's not following their own code and procedure. We have another question. Have you inquired about past excessive use of force complaints against Try? You can say yes, no, or we'll talk.
We don't want to give our hand away too much, because there's just a lot of things that are going on in Cascade County that shouldn't be going on in the first place. I mean, Jake, you highlighted it very well at the beginning of this video in terms of what we are seeing here with our law enforcement in Montana, but more specifically Cascade County. When I talk to a lot of other individuals who are curious about this case, or just curious about law enforcement and their inappropriate actions towards civilians, a lot of them come to after their own research, they come to the conclusion that, wow, Montana is not as safe as I thought it was because of our law enforcement, and specifically Cascade County seems like a problem. And so I think that alone should demonstrate what kind of law enforcement officers we're dealing with in our sheriff's office.
Dude, absolutely. And the annoying thing is, like, if you just look at the straight numbers, it doesn't look bad because it's less than every other state. But there's also fewer people than every other state. And so, like, percentage wise, you're more likely to be assaulted by a cop here in Montana than you are anywhere else in the country, or at least in the top 10. Like I said, what was it? 10 of the last 12 years. So we have another question. Some Quack says, was Try given any alcohol or drug testing when he was admitted to the hospital for his gunshot wound? Great question.
Whoa, great question.
You want to join the team?
Wow. Listen, whoever asked that, fantastic question. We find something new every time in this case. You cannot just have one particular. We get hyper focused on something. I think the longest one that it finally hit me, like, I don't know, late, was he was only there to do surveillance, and we have combed over everything, right? We're so focused on everything else and everything else, and I go, holy cow, wait a minute, this is all null and void because he was only supposed to do surveillance. So great question, because he says he comes back from lunch, and he, in his haste, he doesn't bring anything. Great question, boy. Yeah, you want to be on their team?
That is a good question. And we don't have the largest team. This is not. It's the Libertarian Party and MTS Koja. I think that's proper.
And although we are the third major party here in Montana, we are not that big.
No, we're not.
Yeah. So
but we
we can use all the help we can get as far as knowing what to investigate. There are certain things such as that question exactly. That never crossed my mind because we were so focused on so many of the other things.
Right. I mean, I think it's by they do it to everybody else. I would imagine. So great question, because they would, I mean, by standard, I think there's some of that. If there's a shooting or something like that, they would do that.
Yeah, especially because he was at the hospital. I think there would have had been some blood drawn, but I'm not sure if what test they would have ran that for. But again, great question. There aren't that many of us, and I think that really emphasizes that it doesn't take that many people to stir the pot in meaningful ways. I mean, sometimes it's just one person, but if you get more, 2-3 people, all of a sudden you're at a critical mass that you can make some waves in the community for the better. Sometimes for the worse too, but it really is dependent on those folks and what sort of work they're doing, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to demonstrate that we're, as citizens, we're fed up with what we're seeing, and we're hoping that we can get the rest of the community educated on what we have been seeing.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think a lot of people tend to just assume that any media production that comes out, or massively questionable or instigating statements are meant to just stir the pot for the sake of stirring the pot. But man, I've been a libertarian for, I guess technically for my whole life, but really only for the last 4 years. And all I want is for more people to enjoy peace and freedom, and live life the way that they want to live. And when there are forces beyond your control, forcing you to do things that aren't necessary for you to do and aren't in your best interest, then people need to speak up. And these two right here, Kevin and Tony, they were leading the way months before I came into the picture. So and
to tell you the truth, we had nowhere, we didn't know where we were going. And again, like I said this in the video too, the politics is the only way I've got it on my plate. I mean, in so many ways of understanding other cases where I made that off comment. So I really didn't, it really wasn't about that. It was about a man was just shot without a warrant, and a man was just trespassed on. He wasn't on the warrant, number one. And you get these things like, that's my house. That's me too. And it's very clear what the law is. Okay. So it's the immediate escalation in there is unnecessary. It's unprofessional. Okay. And it's neglectful on every single way. And if anybody could ever see that. And what I mean by, okay, so I come from a trucker's mouth. Okay. Yeah. I'm a teacher by day, or I do whatever, you got to keep it quiet. You do whatever. But so when I hear somebody say, yeah, go get your fucking warrant, that's me too. That's me too. It's like, I've already asked you 3 other times, and he did it calmly, I'll go get your fucking warrant then. And then he came back again. And then he came back again. So he didn't, this is a 70-year-old man, guys. This is not and always stuck with me. I couldn't sleep. I don't know why. I don't know why it was going in that direction, because other than, well, gosh, that's me. That's my house. That's Tony. That's you. And I read the laws to make sure that I am acting accordingly within that. And that is with my sidearm or whatever else I have. If that happens to him, and most Montanans have a sidearm on them, that it's just, you just have to assume that's it. You have to be in an orderly fashion. You cannot be so escalating so quickly. We have not seen anything in law that says they have to remove from the property. Actually, we've seen it in the reverse. You should be on the property. That's why you need 2 people. They'll pull one aside. They'll take your statement. They'll make sure everything is okay. Okay. So that's post. That's not just thing you whip off the top of your head. Okay. That's the training that they get. All right. So that's you and me, man. That's you and me. It's Tony. And that's how I really saw it.
That's what I keep thinking about too is just I mean, it is everyone, especially when we were talking about the car pulling up on a county road. Like I think about where my mom lives. She lives out in the county, and that's a county road. It's right by one of our fence and gate, though. So if the sheriff pulled up right there, I know my mom would have just walked right up there and like, what you doing here? Which I hope that wouldn't end up in a shooting, because apparently that could be the case based off of what we know here.
100%.
By him rolling up to the gate, he made initial contact, and I'm sick of hearing from him that, oh no, and then everybody else, no, Mike made this happen. I'm from the country too. I get it. Anybody rolls down any county road or whichever it is, you hear, you know your environment, and you're like, hey, I think I just heard so and so or something roll up. Ah, that's Steve's truck, you know. And the way that gate is, and the way they portrayed that thing was way back there. No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm walking down to that gate too, like 100%, 100% of the time. And if you're in plain clothes and you're acting confrontational, it very, like, I would not have been as calm as Mike would have been. That's my guess.
And you know what's funny is we don't know if that's what he did. He came from there. He could have been out feeding the chickens or something. He could have just been walking on his own property. Now we do know it was 40 some degrees. Wind was up about 20. Okay, so I mean it's cold. Okay, but that's where the irrelevance comes into place. He could have been going out and just getting a thing of wood.
It's getting dark. Needs to finish up whatever you need to do out in the yard before it gets too dark.
Sure.
Yep. 100%.
So I don't understand they made contact first. He made contact first. That's just ridiculous.
We have another question. If Try had the ability to make calls to family after he was shot, what should his responsibility have been to render aid to Mike, if any? That's a good question. I don't know the law there, and I don't know their procedure.
It is under code for them to go ahead and they have to perform first aid.
Even if Try was shot himself, because I think I've been thinking about this too, and the only thing that I keep going back
take care
to
of yourself.
is
I mean,
he was shot.
No court is going to ever uphold that. Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he shot, but he put himself in one-on-one position. So,
But to the point of the questioner, like, Mike was just laying there, while Try was waiting for him. Likely, Try could potentially see him from where he was seated too. So,
yeah. If it, we all say, well, we would do this, we would do that, we would do this, but it actually shows to the rest of it too, because I know that the sheriff didn't even call the family.
Wow.
So why? Somewhat, Try's got the same mentality. I'm gonna take care of myself. Okay, I can see myself. I'm okay. I feel okay. Would I go and help? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna sit there and answer his, but I think I would. But
yeah. I have no idea. I have no idea what I'd do in that situation.
So to that person, we'll check on that more, but you can find that actually. But we'll check on that even more. That'd probably be in some episodes coming up. I think we're going to show some more stuff.
Yeah. Justin has a lovely comment. He said, I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for all of this. My uncle was a good man. Being poor isn't a crime. Thanks for that.
And I think that's another thing to it too. Pam was letting him stay out, and I think, again, we're not going to get into too much of the past case, but she, they were just friends at this point, and it's good for him to be out there watching her land, and they had an agreement. Even in the newspapers, the sheriff's even admitted he gets his mail there. So that is, that's all, just taking care of one another is great. And I think both of them had that good relationship with that.
Yeah. And one thing that we specifically didn't show very much of in the first episode was Mike Hanson. We kind of wanted to present everything as far as the basic evidence was concerned. We just wanted to present it just straightforward right off the bat. And so this next episode coming up, that'll come out in about a week or so, week and a half, will be all about Mike and his past and who he was, and what he was doing on that property and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to know, why he was there and who this man was, we're going to try to show that as best we can in this upcoming episode. Yeah. Well, we're about out of comments. Kevin, do you have anything else you want to wrap up on before we're going to try? Like I said, I don't know if y'all will be involved every single one of these encore episodes, but I'm going to try to have these encore episodes with a couple people from each episode each time we air an episode a week later, so that we can, stay in touch with the community. People can comment. People can ask us questions that we didn't even think of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're even if not, I mean, we're all still involved in you doing that production, so we're all in on it. I mean, it's great to talk about and defrag on it, and kicking it around. I mean, man, I'd like to do this for every episode because it blows my mind. Great job, Jake. And I sit there and I watch it, and I'm like, okay, what's the next episode? I mean, this is okay. Come on.
Yeah, I will say it's very empowering watching these episodes. It makes you, at least for me, it makes me know that we're on the right path. We're doing something that makes sense, because I can't tell you the countless times in these past, I don't know, 7 or 8 months where I'm constantly just questioning myself because of what sort of as we said, waves that we cause in the community, especially with these elected officials or these county officials. It's nerve-wracking wanting to do something like this, but I mean, the production that you put on, Jake, I think has been awesome and a great way to help inspire us to keep going too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggy on that. I come from a small town too, but and then moving to Great Falls is about the same size. Word gets around fast, so no, we've all kind of sat back and taken a look at this and said, do we want to get involved in this? I mean, is this something that we want to do? We have families, we have businesses, we have whatever we have, and you're damn right we do. After we got done, you think about it, it's like, wow, absolutely. What happened and for Mike and his family and for, well, I mean, you kind of take it personal for us. We want to show what really happened outside of the reports of the news and everything else. So we hope we can do that. And
heck yeah,
it's tough. It's tough. I think the other day I texted Bart and I said, man, this is hard. This is hard, man. Right. And we really just we feed off each other and we keep going. So
yeah. And to be honest, this is just the tipping point of the iceberg. There's so much more to come. Not even just with this case, there's just a lot more to come in Cascade County too. So we have to remember that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And just keep up the efforts.
Yeah, and audience, y'all got to remember it's a marathon and not a sprint. So don't be pushing me for new episodes too soon. I got to make sure they're done right. Thanks, Quack. Appreciate it. DB asks, how can we help support this? So I think there are actually two ways, or two ways that I know of, and Kevin and Tony can add if there are more. You can first of all, spread the show around. Like share the socials. It's Cascade Effect MT on X, and then the Cascade Effect on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple, everything. Another way you can support is if monetarily you can donate to LP Cascade County to help with the investigation. You can also, I'm launching a subscriber subscription service for my network that I'm launching on Sunday, which will include this show and a bunch of other shows. You'll get bonus episodes. These episodes specifically will only be available to subscribers after the live ends. And so you can go subscribe over there. It's $1 a month. So it's not a crazy amount, and you get a bunch of bonus episodes and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the biggest thing is sharing it around, because the more people who see it, the more people we can get involved, and the more backing we have for what our end goal is, which is to get a grand jury to investigate.
So
yeah, and like I said, I mean, don't let it get down on your Facebook and all that stuff too far. Repost, do it again, repost, because that's what I can continue doing. That's our cheap way of doing it. But get it out on Twitter if you guys do, and get it out wherever you can. And just keep us in your thoughts, and Mike in your thoughts, because that's where it really matters.
100%. So you can go to the cascadeeffect.net. That's the official investigation site. There's no www. I don't know how that got lost on the internet, but it's just https / thecascadeeffect.net. I have no idea why that happened. It's bizarre. I've never
the
seen
internet's a weird place.
Internet's a weird place. You can also go to PeacefulSea.network, which is my company's website, and we produce a whole bunch of shows with more on the way, more requiring documentaries, requiring podcasts, requiring shows, requiring movies, and we're trying to create a subscription-based service as cheaply as possible to basically help empower people to become more self-reliant, less reliant on government, think independently. And so we're focusing on shows and movies that kind of showcase that and help with that. So those are the ways. Before we get out of here, any last comments before we go?
I got nothing. You got anything, Tom?
No, I don't. The only thing is, because since you put the plug in for the Cascade County Libertarian Party, if you do donate in any way that way, we are a political party, so we do have to report any of those sorts of contributions or donations. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to go that route. But the monies will be well spent. We're not a local political party that's just focused on elections. We're focused about doing good in our local communities. So
there we go. That's what the LP is all about.
Yep.
All right, y'all. New episode will come out in about a week and a half. You'll see it blasted all over all the socials. So go subscribe to everything, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, y'all.
Shots fired. I got one subject down. I've been hit in my left shoulder. 77 Wexford Lane.
Well, at around 5:30 p.m., we were called out here to Wexford Lane, the site of an apparent shooting.
Our deputy arrived on scene to serve a search warrant.
Mike was never on this warrant.
Michael Hanson, the suspect, pulled a firearm.
Mike had his hand in his pocket. Detective tried to jump the fence.
He went without backup.
The other deputies returning fire shot and killed the armed suspect.
There's actually a lot of things the investigation didn't look into.
Step off the property. Step off the property. What do you got there? Get your head. Fucking asshole.
You show me it's a good shoot, I get it. If not a good shoot, why does it take 3 months for you to clear up this investigation?